attendees.
All right, it's showing up, so. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So when she starts talking about us,
Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar today titled, Your Webinar Marketing Plan is Doomed If You're Not Doing These 4 Things. My name is Stephanie and I'm the Content Manager for ContentBacon. ContentBacon creates amazing content for businesses of all sizes that they love. We make it easy for companies to source and distribute tasty custom content. I'd like to introduce our presenters today, Dave Kustin and Wendy Lieber. Dave and Wendy are the founders of ContentBacon. Dave is the creative engine that drives ContentBacon. With a background in television and film production in LA, he uses basic principles of storytelling as the backdrop for developing ideas and strategies for clients. Quirky fact, Dave is a culinary school graduate and was once in development for his own cooking show. Wendy is a big picture strategic thinker who loves helping clients break down complex issues into simple action plans. She is an expert in helping clients figure out their why, and then communicate that effectively to target audiences. Quirky fact about Wendy, she sees every movie nominated for the Academy Awards each year, and for the last 3 years has predicted the winners 100% correctly. I'd now like to turn the reins over to Dave and Wendy.
Thank you, Stephanie. Welcome everyone to our webinar today. We're super excited to have you, and our commitment is to make sure you get some action-oriented items you can implement immediately. So I know a lot of people, when they think about content marketing, they may look a little bit like this. So our hope is that as a result of this webinar, that you look much calmer afterwards. So one of the reasons why we chose to do the webinar on what we're calling the basics is because Dave and I have realized that so many companies are just missing the basics today. You look at their websites, they haven't been updated in years. They might have a 2012 copyright on them. There's no new content on their website. They're not using social media, or perhaps they haven't updated their social media profile. So we really wanted to cover what we look at as the foundational elements that you can then build on. So we're gonna just kind of jump right into it and start talking about, well, actually, before we get to that, because this is the basics, we have already developed some of our upcoming webinars to dig a little bit deeper. So if you find today useful and you're interested in getting to the next level, we're going to each month go one level deeper so that you really can become a content marketing expert. So these are the dates. We'll send you information via email, but we just kind of wanted to give you an idea that this is just the beginning of extraordinary, valuable content that we're going to continue to deliver to you. So the other thing I wanted to mention too is that a lot of what we're talking about for some people might appear like buzzwords. You know, social media marketing or content marketing might be things that you keep hearing about that you should be doing, but it sounds more like buzzwords versus why you're doing it. And everything that we are up to is all about growing your business. And so the crux of that is that more of your customers and prospects will know, like, and trust you so that they'll buy from you, continue to buy from you, and refer others to you, conversion. So everything we're talking about is in support of that. All right, so let's jump right in. So key element number 1 is device responsive site. And this is, again, might be something that you've heard about, but you don't really know what it means. So Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about device responsive site?
So a device responsive site is a website that renders properly regardless of the device that is pulling up the website. So to give you a visual of that, this is how a website looks on various devices. And you'll see that the website is not merely a shrunken down version of itself on a tablet or mobile or an e-reader. It is almost a separate site, except that it's not. It renders based on the device that pulls it up. This is incredibly important now. for a variety of reasons. But one of the main reasons is, in April of this year, Google changed its algorithm to, quote, punish websites that are not device responsive. We have reached a point on the internet where half or more of all searches occur from a mobile device. So Google's in the business of making sure people doing searches have the best experience. And so to do that, they want to make sure websites that are device responsive are being served up ahead or above of those websites that are not. So it's possible that companies in the beginning of the year that were ranking very high after April may have found themselves ranking very low. There's a joke in our business that the best place to hide a dead body is on page 2 or 3 of Google results. So you don't want to be on 2 or 3 if you can avoid it. So having a device responsive site is really important. Right, so
something I want to say about that too is that when Google makes their algorithm changes, a lot of businesses get somewhat, upset and think Google's trying to punish them. And our experience is all of the algorithm changes that Google typically makes make really good business sense. Google is in the business of helping people search and find the most relevant content possible. So searching is one aspect, but then once a customer finds or a prospect finds your site, they want to make sure that you have a good experience. So if you come upon a site that's not device responsive, that can't be viewed from a mobile device, that you can't interact and function with it, that's not a good experience. You're going to bounce off. A perfect example is I was wanting to order takeout from a restaurant that I knew about, and I wanted to do it from my phone. So I went to the site and I could not order takeout. I could not get to the menu items. It wasn't functional on my phone. So of course, what do you think I did? I bounced off and went somewhere else. That's a very consumer-oriented example, but it happens in business too. If you're trying to access information about a potential business and you can't do it, you're gonna bounce off.
So just to reinforce that, in this example, in this visual example, had the restaurant that Wendy went to had the right site or the device responsive site, she would have been able to easily navigate the site, order from the site, interact. And as she said, this is happening every day with consumer focused businesses and even B2B focused businesses. They're losing opportunities because they don't have the basic tools. So here are a couple action items that you can think about as you consider whether you have a device responsive site right now or not. And there is a test. What is the way to test? There's a Google test where you can, if you just go into Google and you search for responsive test, you can check your own website to determine if it is or isn't. But what we recommend doing is, if it isn't device responsive, convert your site immediately. If you don't have, or if you do have a web developer, talk to your web developer, make a plan. If you don't, seek one out, ask for referrals from business associates. And as far as a framework or a language or a platform, we recommend WordPress. WordPress is a platform that you can build your site on, and it enables you to have easy access to the site for future updates. There are thousands of plugins that you can add to the site for additional functionality, for lead capture, for email newsletters, et cetera, et cetera. So we recommend WordPress. Great.
All right, so we're going to jump right into key element number 2, which is your blog. So this is really, for Dave and I, our passion. The blog is one of the most effective places to tell your brand story and position you as an expert in your respective industry. A lot of people sometimes think of blogs as kind of fluff and, where you might just, write what you have for breakfast or something. But blog is just the word used. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be fluff. It can be really impactful information. I mean, blogs should inspire, they should educate, they should entertain, they should solve problems, and they work. They really, really work. Here's some stats that show how they work. Businesses that have blogs, they show up higher in search engine rankings. People that are on social media that are searching, they read blogs online. It helps helps you show up. It helps you with your page rankings. And, I guess bottom line is businesses that blog generate more leads. So blogging is such an important element. It's really a fun place to tell your story. It's where you can get a level deeper. So often on our promotional material that we put out there on our websites, we talk about ourselves. We talk about, very much we. Blogs, you can get deeper. You can share things about your brand and what makes you so special that your customers are going to resonate with.
So there's a couple of reasons. Wendy mentioned them, but there are a couple fundamental reasons to have a blog, have an active blog, and put out content on a regular basis. It's really important to remember that you don't want to put out an article once every other month. Putting out a consistent flow of original content is really important for brand positioning purposes. If you have a company and you're responsible for sales or marketing, or you're the CEO of that company and you are perpetuating a message, it's important to have content to back that message up. If you're saying we're the best or the fastest or the greatest or the cheapest or the whatever, the more you have to back that up, the better you'll be positioned when it comes time for someone to consider buying from you. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is you want to increase the size of your website and the frequency in which you update your website. Google loves that. Remember, they're in the business of providing a good experience for people who are searching. So they will find websites that are growing in size and adding fresh content to their website. And then last of all, you want to create conversations with people. And a great way to do that, perhaps the best way to do that, is through a steady flow of content through multiple channels. If you're in sales or marketing, typically you work traditional business hours, but content works 24/7. It does not call in sick. When someone is searching late at night to solve their problem, the content is there for them.
Yeah, that's a great point too. You might post something this month that 6 months from now will still be resonating with your audience and will still be getting you traffic because it's showing up in search. In fact, the longer it's out there, sometimes the more it shows up because backlinks start to happen and additional things start to happen. So investing in your blog, investing in your content is truly a way to make your business work for you 24/7. So it's really a must in today's environment for you to compete and win. And I think a lot of people, again, they may get stuck on, well, what do you write about? What kind of content do I put on my blog? And it's really, it's super simple. This list here is a way to think about it. You could put a book review. You could put a list of resources. You could take an article you saw in the New York Times and break it down simply, and say, here are the key takeaways. It could be a Q&A. It could be frequently asked questions. There's so many things a blog can be about. So once you start to think about it like that, it really you could interview someone. You could do some research and provide the findings. So it's really, once you get into the habit of this is how you think about your blog, it can be a really easy thing to create content for. So again, we highly recommend that if you do not have a blog, that you start to think about what you can write about. And we actually have an action plan on how to get your blog going. First thing is add a blog section to your site. So if you don't have one and your site's not device responsive and you're going to be converting, make sure your web developer adds a blog section to your site. Determine who you're writing for. Most businesses have multiple audiences. You may have consumers that you write for, or the actual purchasers. You may have referral sources. You may have strategic partners. So there might be different people that you want to write for, and you can do that in a blog. You can have different categories that you write for. Brainstorm topics. Again, this is really fun to do. I mean, we do this, all day long, and we love it. And there's never a shortage of topics. And a lot of times people might think that their industry, my industry's boring. It's not glamorous. There is no industry out there that doesn't have a compelling story to tell to their audience. So I promise you that there's topics that your audience will be interested in. Assign a writer, start writing, post, and promote. And again, if this sounds overwhelming to you, outsource it. And, a little bit of a shameless plug here, this is what we do, but our goal is to educate you and help you do it yourself. But if you can't do it consistently and it's just not, not top of mind for you, outsource it. The next element we're going to talk about is social media. So again, this is where your content can start to come alive. So many businesses may have a negative perspective of how social media plays into their business because they've never had any valuable content to share. So maybe they've seen what other people are doing and they're like, well, that's boring. Like I would never, put that information on, like a birthday cake celebration, internally or something. But once you have a blog, well, now all of a sudden you have the foundation, you have information that you can start to share with your audience that will be valuable. So blogging and social media really go hand in hand, and together they make the other stronger.
There was a time when posting the birthday cake was great, and that was a great thing to do, and companies would do it, and they would post other things along those lines. We have evolved a long way since then. And if your company is not posting anything of value, or rather promoting anything of value, you're missing out on an opportunity, because people are, even though they're on Facebook, let's say, and they're in a social environment, they are open to hearing business messages or anything of value that may trigger something in them that they're looking for or have been looking for. So it's important to have a steady flow of information that is of value. The birthday cake posts from 5 or 10 years ago perhaps are a little bit passé right now. And we hear all the time in conversations from customers and prospects, they make comments like, I don't think my customer is on Facebook. There are 1 billion plus people on Facebook. I promise you they are. They're there, and even though they're there in a social context, they will be open to hearing a business message.
Yeah, and that's something too. A lot of times, if your posts aren't getting liked or people aren't sharing them or no comments, you may think that it's just all falling on deaf ears. But so often we hear from our clients that we start posting for them and developing content that all of a sudden when they're out and about, that oh, I saw your post and wow, you're really active. So people don't always interact with your post initially, but they're still seeing them. So it's important not to get too discouraged by that. Yes, over time, you want to engage with your audience more, but the beginning part is just to have good content and to start to create that awareness. And don't get caught up in likes and comments and shares initially, because just because you don't have those doesn't mean that you're not making an impact.
And here's why. The second to last point on the slide is Google indexes social media platforms, and that's really important. So if you're posting or promoting valuable information back to your website and someone goes online and they're searching for something, it's another data point that Google will find or pick up on that comes up in the results. So you're essentially stacking the deck. You're leveraging all of the platforms available to increase your ability to create opportunities. So here's some bullet points on an action plan. Pick a few channels. You don't have to try everything. And when we say channel and platform is the same thing. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. There's many of them. You don't have to try all of them at once or at the beginning. Set them up with great images and profile images. Add those links to your website. Again, connecting all the platforms or connecting the social media profiles to your website is important to do. And just like with writing articles, someone needs to own this, someone needs to do it, so that means creating a schedule. And lastly, this is really important. When you're promoting content or promoting an article, and you're promoting it on multiple channels or multiple platforms, you don't simply want to copy and paste the same headline. There are different environments. There's different language that is used for each of them. Leverage that fact.
The fourth element we're going to talk about is your newsletter. Now, I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, I don't want to get another email. And, I think that's a valid point, but your audience wants to get your communication. Again, we find time and time again that companies have databases, or even they have a sign up link on their website where people are saying, yes, I want to hear from you, keep me posted, and then they do nothing about it. So a newsletter, an electronic newsletter, is a great way to stay in touch with your audience on a consistent basis. And again, now that you have content that you're adding to your site frequently, you have something to share with them. So you can do a summary. If you're posting once or twice a week, you can put a newsletter together that highlights some of your recent blog posts and drives people back to your site. And the great thing too about a newsletter is you can promote yourself in the newsletter. So our basic premise when we're thinking about content is we want you to develop and give away your best and most valuable content, because we want to position you as an expert in your respective field, and we want to create trust with your audience. But that doesn't mean that through all of these different things that we're talking about that you can't actually sell. Just selling can't be your primary focus. It's like going to a networking event and walking up to the first person and trying to shove a business card in their face and saying, hey, let's do business together, before you've actually had a conversation. Everything we're talking about is about having the conversation, building the trust, and then you can start to develop that relationship and start asking for the business. So newsletters are a great way to stay in touch with your audience and share your valuable information, because people in your database might not know that you're on social media, and they might not be coming to your website, but you want to stay top of mind, because when they do need you, when they do think about you, you want to be the one that they think about, not your competitor.
So I just want to drive home again that content marketing is the intention. And I'm speaking from as a business owner, as a salesperson, as a sales professional. The intention is to generate conversations and generate opportunities. Salespeople, sales teams, they thrive on having opportunities to do their job. And a newsletter is just another arrow in the quiver to make that happen. And similar to, or just like content in general, it works all the time. I can't tell you the number of newsletters I get that I don't read from 9 to 5. I read them well after work, or I read them on the weekends, and they generate interest on my part. And any company would want that. So many companies that we talk to, they have these giant databases. They're just sitting on them, and those are valuable, very valuable. Certainly, if they've already come into your universe somehow or some way, they know you and they want to hear from you.
Yeah, and again, sometimes people will get upset when they start sending out newsletters to their database, because people will actually opt out, and they take that very personally, us included. But you want people to opt out. You want those people that aren't interested in getting your message to opt out. But there are a lot of people that will stay opted in. And again, they may not read your newsletter right then and there. Like Dave said, they may put it in a folder to catch up on Sunday morning, or they may just be like, hey, I can't read it this month, but they don't opt out because they want to keep receiving it. So it's just such a great way. And we were having a conversation with a new client the other day, and one of the things he realized is he's out there constantly giving presentations, giving speeches, doing content kind of like in the real world, but he doesn't have an online presence. And what's been happening is people are stealing his content, his voice, and making it their own. But because he doesn't have a digital footprint with his content, he really can't do anything about it. So something that he might have said in 2012 that was brilliant, now someone's stealing and saying is their own. He doesn't really have a way to say, wait a minute, that's from my speech in 2012. So while copying might be the highest form of flattery, you want to own your voice. You want to own your content. And again, it doesn't mean it's going to deter people from stealing it and taking it and trying to make it their own. But if you've got it on your site and you're out there publicizing it through your social media, through your newsletters, people are going to know that it's yours and are going to start to relate to you as that subject matter expert. So it's a really important way to own your voice.
The last thing I think I'll add to that is, and perhaps we didn't touch on it enough, but the type of content we're talking about is, Wendy touched on it a little bit. It's not promotional content. It's not what we refer to as me content. our customers and prospects care about their own business and they care about their own problems. So they're looking for information to solve them, get better at whatever they're doing, improve, generate more sales, more eyeballs, etc. So the type of content we're talking about is truly intellectual property type content where you're giving away information, but that information must be valuable. And all of that flows or is a thread through all of these 4 things that we're talking about. Lastly, the newsletter. Not many people want to get a newsletter to hear about the latest sales goal you hit, because candidly, no one really cares. They want to know what can you do for them. And that's great, because that's why you're in business, to help people. So give away your best information. Don't worry, no one's going to do what you do. That's not what happens. But they will start to believe you, and they will engage with you when it's time.
Yeah, I mean, I think, every company has such a powerful story to tell, and oftentimes they forget what that story is because they're so busy, running their business and trying to sell. But when you start developing these 4 key foundational elements, you really get to the crux of why you're in business, why you exist, what problems you solve for your customers, how you add value, and you can really become your own publisher. In 2015, every business, everyone walking around has a publishing device that they're carrying around. And if you don't own that, and if you aren't publishing your story, then you're missing a huge opportunity. And the thing I love about all of these tools that are now so accessible to any business of any size is it allows you to compete and win over the big dogs. There was a time that the only way to reach target audiences was through advertising, and if you didn't have a huge budget, you were out of luck. You had to be super creative and come up with additional ways, but the big boys could always win because they could just outspend you. Today that isn't true. Today it's all about you owning your story and using all these tools and doing it consistently, because by doing that you can really utilize these channels that are, in essence, they're free. Yeah, it takes time and energy and resources to do all the things we're talking about, but it doesn't cost anything to be on LinkedIn. It doesn't cost anything to be on Twitter. It doesn't cost anything to get your database together and send out a newsletter. Or if there are costs, they're minimal. So I really, I love this for businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, because you can compete and win, and all of a sudden become one of those big behemoths.
And on that note, just to piggyback, the statistics show that only 1 out of 8 businesses are actually putting out content on a regular basis. So that means everyone who's listening to this presentation, your competition likely is not doing this. So you have a tremendous opportunity right now to beat them. And as Wendy said, the channels are free, the platforms are free. 25 years ago, CBS and NBC and broadcast media was not free. Quite the contrary. So take advantage of that. Take tremendous advantage of that. So this is our first webinar. Thank you all for being here. First of all, we're going to do our very best to try to capture some questions. We're wrestling a little bit with the technology today, but we're going to check right now. I think Stephanie has a question or two that she has for us. Stephanie? Or if anyone has a question, you can click on the chat button and you can ask us.
Give us 1 second here. We have a few questions coming in. Here's a question, and we get this question quite a bit. And the question is, how will you write for me if you don't have industry have experience in my industry? So here's the short, honest answer, and that is, we employ professional writers on our team, and the job of a professional writer is to absorb information, understand information, and then regurgitate that information in a way that someone's going to find it valuable. It may not be a sexy answer, but that's the answer. That's the job of a professional writer. So we currently write for a few dozen companies that are in as diverse industries as you can possibly get.
We write for law firms. We write for insurance agencies, medical offices, manufacturer financing, asset-based lending. There's no rhyme or reason to the types of companies that we write for. So
I think also as marketers, and we understand that we have to write for your audience. And so oftentimes if you as the company were thinking of things to write about initially, before you got kind of well trained in this, you might think about, oh, I want to write about the services we provide and the value we add. And we would deter you against that because, again, no one wants to read about that for the most part. If someone's on a social media site and they see you talking about yourself, they're more than likely not going to click on it. But we think about it from, okay, what are your customers dealing with? What kinds of problems are they having? Or what would be interesting to them? Sometimes we're quirky and off the beaten path about it just to make it interesting and attention grabbing. But we're professionals. We're experts at that. So for us it's kind of easy. When people ask me that, it's like I don't really always have a great answer because it comes naturally and easy for us because that's the way we always think. But the bottom line is we figure out what would be interesting and valuable to your customers that would make them take the time out of their day to click and read on something that you provided.
So Rachel has a question. Why would you do a blog versus simply adding the information to your website itself? So that's a great question. My perspective is there's two components, if you will, to a website. One is the sort of evergreen type information of about us, what we do, services we provide, who they're for, and perhaps why you should care. Maybe you have pricing, that's information that resides in one bucket. The other bucket is a blog, and a blog should be integrated into your website. And we think about a blog as a living, breathing type part of your website. So there are some reasons from an SEO standpoint. There's tremendous benefit to having a blog integrated with your website, but we call it organic or dynamic content. It's always being updated. It's always being added. When I go to a website and they have a blog and they haven't updated their blog in 6 months or more, I think they're out of business. And I don't think I'm alone in that perception. So Rachel, that reason in and of itself is a great reason. So your business looks alive. I'm not sure what's worse, a company that has a blog that is out of date or no blog at all.
I think the other thing about a blog is you want to be able to share your posts, and a blog is the vehicle to do that. So if it's just on your website, yeah, you could share the page, but a blog is set up so that you can share it, you can post it, you can drive people back to that particular page. And again, like Dave said, I think it's where it has your website be dynamic and not just kind of like brochureware that doesn't look like you're active on it. We think of websites today as almost like your company presence. If you don't, even if you have a physical location, most people aren't going to your physical location. People are going to your website all the time, so you want to look like you're open, open for business.
Alive, look alive. Couple rapid fire questions. Melissa, we don't use any one specific platform. We send out a lot of newsletters on behalf of our customers, so we're using many different platforms. Personally, I like MailChimp. I think the user interface, I think all of us here in the office like MailChimp as well. The user interface is quite simple, and it's more design. It's designed very nicely. The interface is nice.
We use them all. We use Constant Contact, Vertical Response, Eye Contact, you name it, we've used it.
Yeah, we're platform agnostic here.
Right.
Adriana, I'm butchering your name. Miss Gonzalez. Which social media channel would you recommend to try first? I don't think there's a black and white answer for that. I think perhaps it depends on what kind of business you're in. Facebook is kind of an obvious answer. There's 1 billion plus people on Facebook. You can do a lot on Facebook. It's very visual. You can do long form writing if you wanted to do that. You can post video. So there's a lot of things you can do. So I think Facebook is probably the logical answer. Shouldn't the website itself be a living, breathing thing? It is, and that's what we're saying. But it can only be that if you have a blog on it. A blog is widely accepted as the part of a website that is constantly changing and constantly being added to and updated.
We think websites are like children. You know, you can't leave them to their own devices. Like, they've got to be tended to every day.
Linda asks, how similar or different content across different media? Same article, different headline. I'm not sure I understand. Maybe I'm going to answer it as I think I understand it. So what we're suggesting is when you post an article to your blog, when you promote that article on Twitter, you would use language that's native to Twitter. You only have 140 characters. Twitter language is much different than Facebook language, is much different than LinkedIn language. So you would never, in our opinion, use the same type of perhaps pithy language that you would on Twitter that you would on LinkedIn, which is in a business environment. So what we're suggesting is to be mindful of using language that is native to the platform in which you're promoting the article on. We got a question. How often do you suggest adding new content to your site? We get this question a lot as well. We think at a minimum you should post an article a week to your blog. We have some customers, just to give you some sense of scale, we have some customers that do 16 blogs a month, and we have another customer that does 20 a month. There are a number of studies, out there that are kind of measuring blog activity and the results and frequency and all those kinds of things. But for most of the companies that we're talking to and that are out there, they're not doing anything. So their business doesn't look alive. They look dormant. So posting one article a week and promoting that article throughout the week is a great way, is a great start to look alive. Okay, any other questions?
All right, we didn't get stumped.
All right, cool. So just a little bit about us. Wendy and I started this company last year, and we have a pretty simple mission, and Stephanie had mentioned that mission in the opening, and that is to help companies consistently push out original content. And that original content is so important because that's what people, that's how they understand you. That's how they come to know and trust you and want to refer business to you or buy from you. So that's our mission. We're trying to make it very easy. There's not a lot of companies out there in the service space like ours where you can not only get really high quality content from professional writers, but there's also a service component to our business where we post the content to your website for you. We write headlines and we post those headlines in social media. We perform SEO on that content when we post it to your website.
We had the photo.
We add photos, we add images. Essentially, all the company has to do to engage us is pick a package, sign up, and give us some basic information, and we get started, and then the company doesn't have to worry about it. So that's our mission. That's what we're focused on doing. And, everyone loves bacon. So, we're trying to make it so you can't live without it.
So we want to thank you so much for taking time out and attending our webinar. We hope you found a lot of value out of it. Certainly, if you have any questions or follow-up that you want to discuss with us, you can reach out to us, our email address or phone number. We do have a couple of special offers that we want to make available to you. One, if you're just interested in having a conversation with us and having us look at your current assets and giving you a review and a plan, even some ideas for your own content, we are happy to do that. We will spend 30 minutes to 45 minutes with you and review everything you have and help you write a blueprint that you can implement yourself. So all you have to do is email us or call us and we will schedule that with you. If you are interested in converting your current site so that it's device responsive, we're doing that for free right now if you sign up for one of our content packages for 6 months or more. So again, if that's something that you want to learn more about, email or call us and we will walk you through that and give you some more detail. And lastly, if you're interested in getting something going, we're offering 4 weekly blogs. And like Dave said, we do it all for you. We come up with the ideas, we write it for you, we post it for you, we make sure it's SEO'd properly, we put the picture with it, we promote it on your social media. Plus, we'll help you create a monthly newsletter that you can distribute to your database for $9.99 a month. So, so those are just some special offers that we want to make available to you. We'd love to hear from you and talk to you more. And we hope to see you on our next webinar. So thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. We'll keep the broadcast open here just in case anyone has any questions. We'll keep it open.